Hello there. So for today, what I'd like to talk about with you is some information that I received in my medical training after I became a physician, in my extra medical training about hormones. And I think it's so important for women to have this information. So I want to share it with you. And it relates to your estrogen in your body. So this is relevant if you're having periods, even if you're young and not having periods. Let's say you have polycystic ovaries or you miss periods quite often. This is still relevant for you because you still have estrogen in your body. It's also relevant for menopausal women who are on hormone replacement therapy or bioidentical hormones. It's much less relevant for women who are postmenopausal with very low estrogen, not taking hormones. So here is basically we're going to talk about estrogen detoxification and how your body processes estrogen, whether it's estrogen that your own body is making or estrogen that you are giving your body in the form of a hormone. So let's get into this. All right. So for those of you that know me, I work in bioidentical hormones. I don't need to tell you about myself. If you know me, if you don't know me, just know that I work with bioidentical hormones. I've been doing that for over 10 years. I have an integrative medical practice. I'm a family physician by training, and I really love holistic health. That's pretty much what you need to know. Okay, so hormone metabolism. So all of the hormones produced in our body convert into downstream metabolites that we then excrete. That's just the normal process by which we eliminate hormones. So for example, your body makes a hormone like estrogen or progesterone or testosterone. In order for your body to excrete it out of the system, which it does do, that hormone has to turn into other things. And then your body can pee it out or put it on your stool or whatever it does, it's going to get rid of it. We can measure these metabolites, and we do this with a urine test there's many urine tests out there. The one that I use a lot is called the Dutch test. But anyways, you can measure hormone metabolites in the urine, so you can actually see how your hormones are turning into other ones as they're being detoxified. This is really relevant for estrogen, and we're going to talk about this. When estrogen is not optimally metabolized, there's more of a chance that you'll have symptoms of estrogen dominance, like heavy periods or breast soreness or PMS, fibroids, things like that. So the fact is, how we process our hormones is somewhat affected by genetics, but you can still override genetics with the right nutritional support and the right diet. So even if you have bad genetics where maybe you're prone to making not fantastic metabolites or your body struggles to eliminate hormones like estrogen, you can still work with that situation and improve things. So let's take a look. So there's different phases of estrogen detoxification. There's two main phases. There's also a third phase that we'll talk about. So in the first phase, estrogens are turned into 3 different metabolites. I am going to show this on a really pretty picture in a second, okay? There's the 2, the 4, and the 16. And all have the potential to damage DNA. We call them toxic intermediates. As your body is turning estrogen, or even other things, into a different substance that's sort of on a lineup for getting out of the body, those intermediates can actually be more toxic than the actual first hormone or first substance you had. So that's why the body processes things down a chain, right? You always want to turn it into the next substance and the next until it's fully pushed out of the body. So of the 2, the 4, and the 16 types of estrogen, the 2 is the most protective and the least harmful. The 4 actually has been shown to cause DNA mutation, which might be a risk factor for breast cancer. The 16, there used to be some evidence saying that the 2 and the 16, the ratio was really important for breast cancer risk. We no longer believe so, but we do know that the 2 is the best. So we always want to push that 2 metabolite. We want to make your body detoxify estrogen down the 2 pathway. So that's the first step. The second step of estrogen metabolism is when you make the 2, the 4, and the 16, clearing out those guys. So phase 2 is called methylation, and it's basically neutralizing the 2 and the 4. The 16 one doesn't get methylated. So we neutralize the 2 and the 4. We make metabolites that are water soluble that you can safely excrete out. They're excreted out in the urine. There's an enzyme involved in this called COMT, C-O-M-T. If this phase 2 doesn't happen very well, then you can end up with more reactive metabolites that are just a little bit not great for health. More oxidizing can cause some DNA damage, can recirculate and end up down the 4 pathway. So we want to have a very well-functioning phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 2 is also genetically affected, also affected by vitamin status and diet. So we have power points here, meaning we have points of control that we can interject and help improve things. Let's look at a really cool picture to get a visual of this. So you can see that there's estrogen, and the 2 main types are estrone and estradiol. And of course, that's what your body's making or whatever hormone you're taking. And then that is in phase 1 converted into the 2, the 16, or the 4. And I color coded it so you can see. The 2 is the best, it's in green. The 16 is sort of like in the middle, and the 4 is in red because that's the least safe one. Now, even if you make lots of that 4, as long as you clear it to the next substance, you're fine. It's out of your body. The problem is when you can't even clear that. So that's phase 1. Phase 2 is when you have the 2-OHE1 turning into the 2-MEOE1, and when you have the 4-OHE1 turning into the 4-MEOE1. That's phase 2, and that uses the enzyme COMT. So the idea is each of us has a unique way that our estrogens are metabolized, a pattern, and it's determined by genetics, diet, vitamin status. It's great to know your pattern so that you can then optimize it with diet or vitamins. By the way, you would think that when people have a suboptimal way of metabolizing hormones, that they would be the ones that have the PMS and the breast soreness and the moodiness and the fibroids. You would think. I don't know if that's been proven, but we do believe there's an association. So by supplementing, manipulating those pathways, you can really do a great thing for treating those conditions. And in my practice, whenever I have patients who are experiencing symptoms, most of the time there's something going on with these pathways, and you can help them feel better by taking the right supplements. There are occasionally people I meet who have great metabolism and they still have symptoms, right? So it goes to show it's a little bit more complex than just this. So that's phase 1 and phase 2. Now the question is, like, what do we do to support our phase 1 and phase 2? So to support phase 1, so that you can get more of that protective 2 estrogen and less of the 4 and the 16, here's what you do. You eat tons of cruciferous vegetables, the broccolis, the kales, the cauliflowers, the Brussels sprouts, the bok choy, that whole family. Ideally have 2 servings a day. This is hard. Like, they can be intense on the gut. They can cause bloating or gas in some people. It's hard to eat that much. That's why we also say, well, you could take a supplement called I3C or DIM, which is essentially like a cruciferous veggie in a capsule. It's just a way to get like a good amount without having to eat so many. The I3C stands for indole 3-carbinol. The DIM stands for diindole methane. Having progesterone as a treatment can also help with this, and obviously having tons of antioxidants in the diet is great, because even if you make lots of, let's say, non-optimal metabolites, your diet can help clean up any damage that they do. If there's any free radical damage or cellular damage, having lots of antioxidants in the diet can really protect you and just repair anything. So that is phase 1. For phase 2, we want to support this. This is the methylation phase, we call it, and it supports the COMT enzyme, and certain things help with this. Magnesium, folic acid in the form of 5-methyl tetrahydrofolate, or 5-MTHF. It'll say that on the bottle. Folic acid, methylcobalamin, which is a certain type of B12, to be distinguished from cyanocobalamin, which is one other B12 you can buy on the shelf that is not as well absorbed or assimilated by the body. Trimethylglycine, TMG, and something called SAMI. These are all things you can buy at a health food store or order online or whatever that help with phase 2. So the people that are genetically not as good at this phase of detoxification are the ones that generally don't absorb folic acid as well from their food or supplements, and they need extra support, or they're B12, they're vulnerable to being low because of genetic reasons. So they just have a higher need for getting it from diet and supplementation. It is safe to support with most of those things here, even if you aren't sure if this is you. I mean, taking B12, I don't believe really causes any problems, even if you have enough. Same with folic acid. If you're just supplementing a little bit, if anything, it should help you. SAMe, I usually don't use SAMe, to be honest. I usually get by with using the magnesium, the methylfolate, and the B12. Those are often enough to help with this particular phase. SAMe has other benefits. I've seen some people have side effects. You might want to run this by a healthcare practitioner, a naturopath, to make sure it's right for you. But this is generally what we do for phase 2. Now, there is a phase 3. This is the last step, and it actually happens in the gut. Now, there can be a problem with this if the colon is not optimal. If you have colitis, that's an obvious colon issue, but some people have inflammation, and it's not a medical diagnosis. They just have inflammation in the colon or in their body. And you can actually get recirculation of your estrogen. So your body is supposed to push some out in your stool. It doesn't happen in certain cases, and then it just recirculates, adding to the estrogen load. That's obviously not great if you're estrogen dominant. If you have an imbalance in healthy to unhealthy gut bacteria, that also causes an enzyme to get elevated. That causes your estrogens also to recirculate. And anytime they recirculate, they tend to go down the 4-OH pathway. So that's not ideal. So what do you do for phase 3? You can take a supplement called calcium D-glucarate. It's more D-glucarate than it is calcium, so it's not really like you're getting lots of calcium. You can eat flax seeds. You can grind up like a tablespoon or 2 of flax seeds every day. Make sure to drink lots of water to flush out your system, which always helps with detoxification. And eating a whole food diet, like, you can't go wrong with a really clean, healthy diet. So in summary, there's those 3 phases that relate to estrogen metabolism. We want all of them working beautifully. They can be measured by an integrative medical doctor or naturopath by using a urine test. If you suspect you have it, you have all the symptoms, you don't want to do the test, you can still treat with these types of supplements. Just sometimes it's nice to actually see numbers on a test, but these are the general treatments. And obviously having a healthy lifestyle and eating clean serves everything, because even if you make lots of bad things in the body, your body can handle it if it has the right materials to do the repair. So I hope you found that helpful. I hope you learned something new that you can implement in your life. And I look forward to being with you next time, and thank you for watching today.